We are live in this next episode of the exciting adventures in Reverse, the Web3 Comic-Con experience this weekend. Back again with Ronan the Collector, and very excited to be here with James and Naomi from STARKADE. Man, I'm gonna let Ronan do most of the hosting here, but I have to just start off and say, like, I love the artwork that you guys make and just the whole style and vibe of the whole project. You know, if people are not familiar with this, with STARKADE, you definitely have to check it out, because just immediately the visual experience of it is just like, boom, I need to know more about this. So that's why we're here today, to know more about this. So let me
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. It's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely have to say the art is what got me into it. I actually started following James, I don't know, like 2.5 years ago, when you first kind of like started like checking out NFTs and things, and the artwork, I immediately recognized it. It's a very unique style, right? One that's replicated often, or tried to replicate often. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, man, that looks like a Metallica poster, or like a, I don't know, like a video game I played once. And you've done Far Cry, you've done Metallica, you've done so many amazing, like, just like traditional art, you know, like shows, all types of stuff. But STARKADE is your own thing. It's for you. It's kind of like your baby. Tell us a little bit about STARKADE. You told us pre-show something I did not know, which is this is something that you've kind of been working on for a very long time. So I'd love to know a little about the beginnings and a little about like where STARKADE came from.
Yeah, that's a good story.
It's a big one.
It's a long one. Hey, everybody buckle up. Yeah, so the origins of STARKADE, if nobody has seen STARKADE, pop over to starkade.com. That's where you can get all the information on what we're doing. And you know, what you'll see on the website is the current incarnation of it. But where it started was in 1987, when I was 10 years old. You know, when I grew up on you know, stuff like Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat, He-Man, like all stuff Eternia, Masters of the Universe, everything Super Nintendo, Image Comics that we were talking about before the camera started rolling, right behind Naomi there. And I have that I grew up with, all my Nintendo Power magazines and trading cards, and you know, all of that like ephemera that you grow up with when you're a kid. And STARKADE has its roots there. So me and my best friend Mike Field, back in Hilden, Nova Scotia, Canada, where I grew up. That's why I got an accent that's different than Naomi's. I'm Canadian. And we started drawing our own wrestlers. So we were really super into WWF back in the day, you know, the days of Jake the Snake and Ultimate Warrior and all that stuff. And we wanted to create our own wrestlers. So we started drawing them, and we would name them, where they're from, and we started rolling dice to have them fight. So we had champions, we had tournaments, we had rivalries, we had tag teams and everything else. And those characters that I had my federation and Mike had his. But those characters stayed with us all through our lives. So every once in a while, we'd revive our federations and redraw our characters. Some of them were aging and that kind of thing. When you started getting video games for like the PS1 and PS2, it had to create a wrestler feature. So me and Mike would create our wrestlers in these video games and then fight them that way. So the characters of this wrestling federation stayed with me all like my entire life. And 2013, I kind of dug up all the drawings, and I have my drawing right here. I don't know if this will show up on camera very well, but
Wow.
you know, that's what it kind of looked like.
That's so cool.
That's amazing.
That's here, and you know, show you a couple more. So you know, I'm getting a little bit better. I don't know if you can really see that or not, but there you go. There's Spikester. So, oh, you want to get the big screen there? There you go.
Oh yeah.
That's so cool.
I swear I have drawings that look a lot like that, but yes, those are very awesome.
I have some too. I drew them like a week ago.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
Amazing. No judgment on time frames. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's all good. We all got to start somewhere. So, yeah, and in 2013, I started digging up these old drawings that I did when I was a kid and started re-illustrating them using, you know, my abilities and software and programs today. So using Illustrator and Photoshop. But what I didn't have was, I didn't know, like, I wanted to do something with these characters, but I didn't know what. So me and Naomi, at this point, it's 2016, and me and Naomi are sitting at one of our pubs, and she, like, I was talking about it, and I posed the question, how do I make people like care about these characters? Like, I want to do prints of them or something like that, but I can't expect somebody to buy a print of a character who they don't know. It doesn't have a backstory, doesn't have anything. So Naomi started throwing out a bunch of ideas, as she does. We started brainstorming, and Naomi said, I'm talking about you like you're not here.
You are.
Sorry. So she said, why don't you do like an art installation and walk people through your childhood with these characters, and then like show them evolving based on your art style and stuff, and which is a great idea. And then right at the end, as a throwaway idea, Naomi said, and at the end, maybe you can have like a game or something people can play that harkens back to you and Mike rolling dice and stuff. And light bulbs went off in our heads. We're like, a game. That's a great idea. Like, that's what we should do, is create a tabletop game, a physical card game.
Not a small project.
Yeah. Like, no, it turns out they're a hell of a lot of work. Yeah. So, and what I'll do is I'll take us right up to the PFP project, because there's I'm sure there's some conversation we can have in here or whatever. But so in 2016 we started working on the STARKADE tabletop game. It started out as the AWF, the Awesome Wrestling Federation, but we didn't want to make wrestling is kind of a polarizing medium, right. So we didn't want it to be about wrestling.
For me.
For Naomi. Yeah. Like, it's not real, right? What are you talking about? Yeah. So we kind of evolved it, taking more inspiration from the Street Fighter 2s and the Mortal Kombats and the Killer Instinct and that stuff that I grew up with, He-Man, like I said earlier, and changing it to be something that's more about super-powered fighters, not wrestlers. And so that's when we started working on the tabletop game, and worked it basically all the way up until this time last year, which is when all of the hysteria around PFP projects and all that kind of stuff was kicking up. And we kind of looked at each other and said, why we're making a game right now that has 31 main characters. We could have 7,000 characters and garner a community and possibly get some funding, so maybe we can try to make a go at this for real, right? So a lot of what Ben said in your last talk resonated a lot with me. It's like he has kind of a similar trajectory with his own IP that we have. That's really cool. So yeah, that's the catch up kind of story for everybody. Like this project goes a long way back with me, and in terms of the game, we had a massive head start before. We didn't even know what NFTs were when we were working on the tabletop game. So, we've adapted to a new medium, but now there's going to be some crossover with the tabletop and a digital product, which is
yeah. And at our last count, we were on the 10th prototype. So, it took many years. Like, I think we worked on it for 4 or 5 years. I mean, because also, caveat, we are not games designers, and it is not an easy thing. So my background is in UI and branding, and James is obviously in art and illustration. So putting together a game is a lot harder than we thought. So we pulled in our good friend, Lucas Gardner, pretty early on. Maybe after about 6 months of Post-it notes and real awful gameplay that wasn't fun. Like you played a card and then it was like, oh, nothing happens.
We played seven cards and nothing happens.
Yeah, 7. So yeah, we put Lucas in, and after that point, that was the pivoting point of like, oh, okay, we're really building something incredible here, and we actually considered taking it to Kickstarter, as many people do, and then James started to get more into the NFT scene, and then we saw, a huge potential there, and actually a potential to, build a community around it who could actually come along for the ride with us, and be more involved, because we'll get into the team, obviously, but I had worked in digital products for the last 12, 13 years or so, with our developers who now work with us as well now. So we were fortunate enough to have all that Web 2 experience, and then looking at Web3 and the technologies that exist, it was like, okay, this could be really, really special. Like, we could turn STARKADE into something much bigger. So we decided to jump into the Web3 scene, but we also are doing lots of exciting things in Web2 and trying to gel them together. And then when the physical game comes out, which we'll get to, we're then looking at crossing over the 3. So we're super excited about, our path.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Awesome. Wow, there's so much to dive into. I love it. Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess one of the things that you heard and we were talking to Ben as well is like, I really want to, in addition to talking about the game and kind of the mechanics of how all these different pieces come together, just bring us into the world of Starkade. Like, we got some of the inspiration, but like, what is the universe that you built here, and why is this a cool place to hang out? Why do I want to be a fan of Starkade, let's say, as if I wasn't already, but for someone that isn't. Yeah.
Want me to start that?
It, yeah.
All right. Like I said, initially it was wrestling, and we ditched that pretty quick. But we always had kind of a vision for what that world was going to be. But like Naomi said, she's a designer. I'm an illustrator. We're not a games company, and neither of us are writers either, which is key here. So we started building the game, and I had a rough idea of who my characters were. Their backstory, potentially some of them where they're from, what their intentions are, and what their powers are. But it was really just a rough sketch. When it comes to writing, I know what I don't know, and that's everything. So it's a science that I completely respect and know that I know nothing about it. So, I tried my hand a couple of times. I wrote a 6-page comic, a Starkade comic, and just self-published it and that sort of thing. But the world came about by drips at the beginning. But it wasn't until we hired our good friend John. Like, we know some real talented people, and Lucas being one of them, who wrote all the game mechanics. But John, who is an incredible writer, and we pitched it to him and said, like, would you like to come on as like kind of the lead narrative creator, the lead narrative writer? And thankfully, he said yes. And
tore him away from his other job.
Yeah, we took him away from his other job. But yeah, and so the world of Starkade, and this is partially like he's acting on some of the notes that we gave him, but a lot of it is John.
Yeah.
So the idea is we're building our own world as we do, and the world is sort of governed by the Starkade tournament. Okay, so there's a lot of fighters from across the land, and they get invited to the Starkade tournament to do battle with one another, not unlike Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. And the winner of the Starkade tournament, they get invited by the Magna Prime, by the way. They're these two godlike figures, and they invite people to battle. The winner gets granted the ultimate wish. And that ultimate wish could be something very small. They could wish for, I don't know, ice cream, and they get an ice cream. Or they could make a wish so big that it changes the world as we know it, the Starkade world as we know it. So, of course, something that powerful attracts both good people who want to do good and bad people who have more nefarious aims. And they want power, they want wealth, they want all that kind of stuff. But it also attracts corporate people. So people that want to train fighters. So hopefully one of their greatest fighters will get invited, and then they could win the Starkade tournament, get this ultimate wish, and basically take over the planet, sort of thing. Yeah. That's the synopsis of the tournament itself. But the Starkade tournament isn't secretive like it is in Mortal Kombat or whatever. It is a global phenomenon on this planet. It is the Olympics of this planet. So it is broadcast to everybody's living room all the time. And people have marketing campaigns behind the fighters from their individual cities and from their regions. They have fandom, they have merchandise, they have all of these things that go with something this big. So it's not hidden. It doesn't take place behind closed doors. But the Magna Prime are always thrown into question. Are their intentions good or bad? We don't even know at this point. So that's the synopsis of the world. Now, to get into what the PFP project is and how that fits into this narrative is, like I said, we had the card game, and the card game focused on our megastars, like our main core characters, and then those entities fighting with one another. But when we discovered, when Bored Apes came out, we were like, what? We realized we can have 7,000 fighters now if we took this into the NFT space. So we came up with the Starkade Legion. So the Legion there's another arena called the Legion Arena, and that is on the planet. The Starkade Arena orbits like a nearby star. That's where all of the Magna Prime and all the crazy magical stuff happen. But the Starkade Legion, or the Legion Arena is planet-based, and it's built by people. And it's built because a little bit of story to go back before this. There was one of our megastars is called Volta Grim, and Volta Grim is we think she's a demon. We're not really sure, but she had very nefarious means, and she used the ultimate wish after she won it to get more power, and then she won subsequent Starkade tournaments over and over again and gained power and basically ruled the planet as they knew it. She was banished into like kind of unintentionally by by a techno witch. So she's banished and she vanished. That rhymed.
Very nice.
So
Yes.
the Starkade Legion was built as a protection mechanism against the potential return of Voltagrim. So this is regular people from our planet that can go to the arena and train to build this force against Voltagrim should she return and try to enslave the planet, basically. Yeah. I say basically after talking for about 5 minutes. So the Legion Arena, all of the fighters, all of the 7,000 PFPs, that's the Legion Arena. So recruiters, when they bought fighters, they make up that force. And that's kind of, that's the bare bones main storyline. We have a lot of side quests with a lot of the specific characters that are going off. And John is
incredible.
He is built. We had in a presentation that we prepped for you guys, we have a video of his writing process, and you've never seen so many post-it notes. It's awesome and crazy. But yeah, so that's
you're making me regret not seeing the video, but we'll circle back to that later.
It'll happen. That's the main storyline. Yeah.
That's awesome. So then I imagine, as a collector of these characters, I kind of take on the role of the trainer potentially, or the person that's, getting my forces together to go after getting this ultimate wish.
Right. So, and that's the thing. Like, you're right. It's you're a recruiter, and we opened up the training ground on StarKade.com. So you want to talk about the training ground?
Yeah. So training ground we've got open at the moment at StarKade.com, but and people are encouraged to go and train with the megastars. So we've done some really interesting things in the Web3 space in that you can, upgrade your NFT. You can learn skills. So you learn combos, fighting styles, and taunts that can then be used in Legion Arena, which is coming in the next few months. We've been doing some really lovely kind of build work this year. And Training Ground is an awesome place where you can go and see what the megastars teach you, and each of them teach you individual combos and skills and really interesting things that are then going to come about in Legion Arena. So if the recruiters who are actually training their fighters now are going to be miles ahead when Legion Arena comes out, because they're going to be able to use these skills, these fighting styles, etc., when they go into battle. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be pretty high up on that leaderboard as soon as it comes out, because they're going to have quite an advantage. And we also brought out a Web2 credits. So instead of bringing out a Web3 token soon before all of our foundations are built, we've brought out a Web2 token instead. So people are also kind of getting paid for training. So, they are earning credits all along. And then, as I say, we're building the foundations at the moment. So we've got some awesome other things coming in future. We'll get onto that in a bit. But yeah, Training Ground is super fun, and people are really enjoying we've got like regular, almost daily updates. It depends which megastar you train with, and that might be a bit grumpy and a bit quiet with you for a while. But regular like in character updates that you can go and check in on all your fighters. So you get a feel for those megastars as well. So we're kind of teaching the story through through training as well, which is really lovely. So there's some quite comedy lines in there.
Yeah, we have is it 15? It's 15 megastars that we have.
There's 15 plus the calamities. There's actually 16.
And 16. And our writer John had to write how many responses for each one? There was something like 4,000 responses he had to write in character, like for these characters, because when you sign up for the training, like he wanted to work in the personality of the character and put in a little bit of world lore and all this stuff. So one of the things that, we could go on about the technology, and which is super fun, but with every technological advance that we put into Starkade, lore is going to be there with it. Story is going to be there with it. And that's something. So building all of the stuff to this year, we've incorporated lore with some of our releases, like the Lost Fighters, a little bit with the Training Ground. well, a lot within the training ground, but story is something. And by the way, thank you so much for putting on this event that is story based.
Yeah.
Like I tuned into so many damn things, and it's just talking about like the perceived value and floors, and it's like, what? Yeah, but what about what that character does?
The cool stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what do they eat for breakfast, man? Come on.
Exactly. I want to know. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Starkade, what do the champions eat for breakfast in the
That's right. It's like, oh man, it's Wheaties, man. You gotta eat your Wheaties, right? It just makes you better. Yeah. So anyway, to wrap it up, the story and the lore is always going to run parallel to the technology that we work with, and that's the beauty of working with the team, John and Dan and Lucas and Patrick and Jack and DC. Like they're all incredible, and that's really something. The world build is like the pillar of what Starkade is, which is super fun.
Yeah,
I love that. Well, I think it's part of what I think is so fascinating, and so I relate to both of you because I started as an illustrator, but I've also done a lot of UI UX work over the course of my career, and I've also written games and done kind of a lot of the different elements that you guys are talking about. So being able to kind of look at this through the lens of like how do you use technology to reinforce storytelling, how do you use storytelling to push the tech forward, and when those things really come together in a way that feels natural and elegant, like that to me is kind of where the magic happens. That it's not a perceived separation of the two, but it's really one thing that's creating this experience. And it sounds like you guys are very much taking that approach, which I love. And you've completely the right color pill is for Starkade, but you totally got me on wanting to go into the arena. So
good to hear, man. And that's something that what you just said there is something that like the whole team takes to heart, because Lucas, like I said, or like Naomi said, is our game architect. So he's writing all the math for all of the different, it's insane the amount of stuff he's building for weapons and power-ups and everything else, and individual abilities that these megastars can teach the fighters. But he's really conscious of the story and the lore and the world build, as conscious as John is. And like Lucas doesn't want to just write random numbers to say like, oh, it gets 5 things or whatever. He wants to know what that story is or what that power is or who that person is in order to write the math accordingly, which is really, I don't know how they do it. I'm just like, I'm going to make the hat pink, like
one of the most impressive, the things that impressed me the most was when we started working with Lucas and James gave him, before even we were working with John, and James gave him like the high level synopsis of what this character is. And I mean, really high level, but it's like, he does this, he's from here and he's mysterious in this way, whatever it was, like so high level in comparison to John's awesome work now, but gave him that. And then Lucas would come back with the game mechanics written, and James and I would play mostly in the pub, and when we played it, it felt like that character. It felt like that's who I'm playing. That's what he does. Like it's incredible. Can we tell the Trash Ghost story?
Oh, Trash Ghost. Okay, yeah. One of my favorite characters in the game is called Trash Ghost, and
he's not in he hasn't been released yet.
Yeah, people can look forward to him. I'm definitely looking forward to him.
But that doesn't sound like a character I've seen.
He's a joke. Like this is how me and Lucas brainstormed. So I sent him a text one day and I said, I got an idea. His name's Trash Ghost. He's a guy that, oh man, he can remember it better than I can. I think the synopsis I gave him was, he's a guy that died in a dumpster and woke up as a super powered phantom with armor made of garbage, was the synopsis I gave him.
And this was me, like, in the background. Oh God, here we go. No, come on, guys! Like, stop it. But then he went and wrote the mechanic for it, which is.
He wrote, okay, in our game, there's a discard pile because it's a card game, right? So it's the cards you play and then you clean up and put them in the discard pile. And he wrote the character to pick from the discard pile. So he's using garbage in order to activate abilities and stuff. Like, how did you do that?
That's so cool.
So cool. Yeah.
So now he plays so well and everyone loves playing him that he's now in there. So
yeah.
I have no say in it.
This is what Naomi's dealing with.
Well, you guys are, I mean, forgive me for putting in these terms, but the two of you are just absolutely adorable in the best possible way. So, I mean, this is not what the intended topic of the show is be about today, but I now need to know, like, how did you meet and you know, come to this whole fruition of all of this together?
Yeah, well,
what's the meet cute?
Yeah, oh, bless. Well, thank you. We actually met. We were both speaking at a design conference in Aberdeen, Scotland, in 2015, I think. And we knew of each other in Web 2 days, and you know, had a few backs and forths, and knew of each other. I had a shop at the time, and I actually asked James to sell his products in the shop, and he'd said no. So I just took the opportunity when I met him in person to be like, you really need to sell in my shop, like your products will do really well. And he's like, I don't really have time for products. I was like, yeah, you do. So anyway, we kept in touch, and then yeah, like the next year we spoke at a few events together, and we just got to know each other, didn't we, after that? And then I asked him to marry me.
Amazing. Wow.
So
right on.
when I married, and that was that, really. And I have a habit of turning everything into a business. It's just a downside of mine. But yeah, so when we started speaking about ideas about Starkade and stuff, it just seemed a bit too good of an opportunity not to work together on something. I mean, we both worked for ourselves, but we worked from the same office for different clients, and it was kind of like this feels like there's something there. So I mean, it hugely started as a passion project that we just did in our spare time. It's probably why we spent 4 years making 10 prototypes of a game, because it didn't need to happen straight away. It was something that was pure passion.
We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, but now it's, you know, because we took time off last year. James got into the NFT scene in 2020. Yeah. And
by the time I met Ronan.
Yeah, and we worked together a bit on the Nukes project that you put out, and it kind of brought enough income in that we could take some time off client work and put all of put all of our concentration on Starkade, and then wonderfully the project that we put together, which was the PFP project, went so well that we were like, fantastic, we can now like take the rest of this year off and hire our team, and that's what we've all been working on since. So it's pretty incredible. We feel very fortunate, and so cool. Extremely lucky to have met each other as well.
No kidding. I mean, just complimentary in every way. It's awesome.
Well,
thank you.
It's a great story.
Cool. Well, I've been hogging all the questions, Ronan. Where do you want to? Where shall we dive in next?
Oh, yeah, you're gonna pass it to me at the awkward point. Like, where's the segue here? No, I'm a huge fan of the art, and I'm a huge fan of like everything that like you do. Like, it's had a lot of inspiration on like a lot of the aesthetic of content that we put out, right? Like our show, we use like one of your most iconic like images, like the sun, right? With art being like so core, how do you avoid, and this is kind of to another thing I like to talk about when I have the opportunity, how do you avoid burnout, right? Because like your entire job now is art, but also it's your hobby. It's also your passion. It's also what you do with your wife and when you're spending time together and when you're hanging out in the pub. Like, so like you've got all of this, but I think a lot of us, and I found the last conversation so inspiring. I want to get to and I've been inspired by this conversation. I feel like you could shed some light. How do you avoid like that becoming something that you're tired of or you resent and you continue to have such a passion for?
No, that's a great question, Ronan. Yeah, thanks for that. The short of it is, at times when you do as much art and as much work as I do, it's impossible to avoid burnout. It's just you can put up safeguards and you can try to keep yourself on track. But when deadlines are looming and you have to make 300 damn assets for the Lost Fighters release, it gets taxing, and the only way to really deal with it is you gotta get away. You gotta get away from the screen. For me, like you said, going to the pub and drawing. That's something I try to do every Friday night. I'll put up my updates on on Twitter. Excuse me, and that is something for me. And if Naomi knows that I'm burned out, she'll chase me out of the house. She'll say like, "Go do your thing." You know, it helps.
Yeah.
And it's yeah. Want to take over for a sec?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it definitely helps. I mean, it's a difficult thing to do because, you know, even on the dev side, on the management side, on the design side, there's always something to do, right? And we all know whatever work that we work in, there's always work to be done. So yeah, it is quite hard. And also, you know, I think we're quite an anomaly, even in our friend set as well, of we don't know many people who work together and live together and are married and do everything together, you know. So
share an office together.
Yeah, share an office and all of that stuff. So, you know, we are very aware of it, and we do try and have our own independent time. And even if that time's just like, okay, you need to go and play video games and I need to go and have a bath for 2 hours, you know, whatever whatever it is. But it's just, you know, that separation does need to happen sometimes, and just reminding ourselves that, you know what, we're still doing our best work, but our best work is only done when we take a little bit of a step back from it sometimes and have those, have a little bit of time off. So if I see James struggling on the other side of the desk, which sometimes, you know, I hear him before I see him.
Yeah, I hide behind a big screen and she'll hear me like sighing.
I do that too.
Then, you know, I'll just be like, why don't you go for a walk? Like, why don't you switch, do something else? You know, like get out of here, you know, go and do something else. So yeah, I think it works well when we're both in the mindset that we can remind each other. The hardest part is when we both feel burnt out.
Yeah,
that's hard.
Rarely happens, but
it hasn't happened often, but
but it has.
I think maybe twice it's happened, and that is hard. That's a tough one to get out of, because then you're both kind of in that but I've got to do this, but I've got to do that mindset, and that's a bit hard to switch on.
It's being self-aware too, right? Like when you're in a moment of like burnout, but you know you have to get work done, it's very easy to just try to push through it, and it's impossible to do that. Like if you're tired, you need to step back, you know. And that's something that I learned around, I don't know, 2014, 2015, like during my career, that I'm better at shorter bursts than I am over prolonged periods of work time, you know. So if I can have a really good focused 6 hours a day, that's better than trying to push into the evenings and staying up until 2 a.m. and then I'm tired the next morning. You know, my work it got better when I realized I need to take myself away from this, you know, and get other hobbies. I started playing Magic the Gathering, and that took me away from the computer and probably inspired STARKADE. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Well, I think, sorry. I think for I would probably for everyone, but I'll say it for creative people just because that's my lens. But it's like, you know, everything informs everything else, right? So, I mean, there is a reality also to, it's like, oh, if I take a step back from doing this and I go play Magic or go, you know, watch a movie or even, you know, hang out with friends and we end up talking about something, it's like somehow that stuff finds its way back into the work as well, especially when we're building worlds and characters and, you know, creating something that's kind of also our own output. You know, it's you know, I think it is hard to make that time, but I think it's also very good to recognize that it does actually make the thing you're trying to do stronger and better, as opposed to that just kind of like, I'm just going to push through no matter what, which I am certainly guilty of at times as well, you know.
We all are, but 100% it makes a big difference. Yeah.
And there's one thing, just as a little side note, you know, it's, for me as a creative person, like normally drawing and illustrating comes easy. Like I'm really fortunate in that. Like I know what I like, and you know, if I do a couple sketches, I can get something down that I like, that I enjoy. But a lot of times when burnout takes hold, I kind of have blinders on, and I don't see anybody else. I don't like hear from anybody else. And this is a weird segue, but it is absolutely true. Like I have to give a big shout out to the Discord community behind STARKADE, because those guys are in there every day, and they're in there horsing around and trading gifts, and they're just having a great time in there. And that is something that to get me through hard points, just popping in there, you know, I got to give a shout to them, man. Baz is here, and Shredda and Robert. You guys, I know Void is probably watching this. Like those guys, like Butta, Monkey, you know who you are. And you know, just popping in there too. So it's really good to kind of like take a break and like just horse around, just talk to other people and that sort of thing. It really does help me with trying to, you know, get my bearings again. So
I mean, that's so cool. Sorry, I was gonna say, I mean, that's so cool of you to say. And I mean, we have the same experience in our Discord. It's just an amazing community. Ben mentioned, that they've got that experience in their community, which is, having a real, support system of people that are in many ways invested in the project, however you want to use that term. So I think it's, it's one of the elements of this world that I wouldn't have expected, ahead of time coming into it, that has been such an empowering factor. And I think, not to throw shade on any other project, as I don't mean it in this spirit, but I think, this seems to be an interesting common thread for projects that are this kind of longer term, story driven, kind of creator driven projects where, it seems to attract a community of people that are kind of down for the ride, as opposed to just, worried about the quick exit, so to speak. And it's incredible to have that kind of relative group of strangers going like, hey, we're here for you, do what you need to do. Like,
yeah,
that's awesome.
It's absolutely incredible. It's surreal at times, but absolutely wonderful. Yeah, we couldn't do it without them.
And the kingpin behind that is Robert Castillo. I see him in the chat room there. He's over on the YouTube. He is our community manager, the official StarKade community manager. That's our boy right there. And big shouts to Robert, man. You've never seen so many gifts with his face on it. It's crazy.
That's the best, when you're like a community manager and all of a sudden like the community starts using you for the memes. Been there, done that. And as somebody who definitely comes from like the community building side, I would be probably get in a lot of trouble from peers if I didn't ask a question for a little bit of alpha. So what comes next for the project? What is next for StarKade? What can we look forward to? Maybe what's a little alpha for those who are tuning in this afternoon?
Let's up the ante and say, what have you not shared anywhere else that you want to just tell us?
What have we not shared anywhere else?
If I had a prop here,
James is devastated. Something that is in the office instead of this is home.
We got a damn prototype that I would be holding up right now, but it's at the damn thing. But we do have stuff. We do have stuff that is coming up. So do you want to take the lead and then we'll trade off?
Yeah, so we have a crate drop coming up, which is our at StarkadeVERSE. We're opening our warehouse soon, which is the place where people can go and buy blind crates with small, medium, large, however many they want. And there will be, we can say that there will be some freebies in there for our community. So they have to be there at a certain time and place, but there will be some free stuff for them. So that's exciting. We've also got some really nice story-based things happening on the run-up to the launch of Crate. So please join us on our Discord in the next few days and weeks, because we're going to have some exciting run-up to the launch of Crates. That's all going to be super fun to be involved in. And again, more freebies to be had by being involved in that. So that's really lovely.
Let's just say interactive freebies,
it's gonna be fun.
Stories. So
it's gonna be lots of fun. We of course then have Legion Arena beta or beta, depending on where you're from, coming up, where we're having a closed beta with members of our community. We still do have the form still is open to get involved in that if anyone's watching and wants to get involved in the beta version before its full launch. That will be coming up next, and then we'll have
that link on the Discord.
Yeah, the link's on the Discord. Yeah. And then we have...
Is it discord.gg? Do you guys have discord.gg/StarKade?
Yeah, discord.gg/StarKade. Yeah, simples. And then, of course, we have the launch of actual Legion Arena, which everyone is super excited about, where you can actually use everything that you've got within your crates, whether it be power-ups, items, or something that James can then share as well, which we haven't shared. You can use those things within Legion Arena to battle one another. Again, if you've been training, you're going to have a massive advantage within Legion Arena, because you'll be able to access things that other people can't. So that's coming. We can also say that we have officially moved forward with a partner for merch. We've been asked by our community all year when merch. It is happening. It is moving forward in the background. So we should have some news on that pretty soon. But the wheels are in motion. It's being built right now. So you can expect some clothing and some lovely stuff in there. And then, of course, spring of next year, we will have the actual tabletop game in manufacture and into fulfillment. So we're super excited because that for us is like so fulfilling, because we've come full circle from the actual physical game. We'll be able to then bring it back around to actually bringing the physical game to everyone and getting it fulfilled worldwide. There is a lovely expansion pack as well happening for holders of Legion fighters and Lost fighters. So if you own a Starkade fighter at the point in time that we're going through manufacture, then you will get a free expansion pack as well that will never be reprinted. It will be the holders at that time. So that's exciting.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then the two things that you are also new, we've got something that's within crates.
Right. Yeah, the crate. Thank you for the reminder. I was just like, oh, I only know one. Something we came up with a little while ago. Like I said, I'm drawing at a pub every Friday, or most Fridays, and I'm drawing Starkade characters. I love drawing my own characters, like beating each other up or smacking each other through walls or whatever. And what we decided to do, I made high-res scans of all of my drawings, put together a little Starkade-esque frame around them, and you're going to be able to, they are one of ones that are going to be available randomly in crates. So you can be a Starkade art collector within our world. And those are not going to be just pretty drawings in a frame. They're going to have utility built into them. So the Starkade Art Collector Society, I guess we'll call them, is going to have...
John might have something to say about
Yeah, John will have something. And they'll have access to something that's unique to them, or a piece of merch that's unique to them, or something that's within our world that that only art collectors will have access to.
Yeah, and it's probably... Yeah, it's probably worth saying as well that Warehouse will be a permanent fixture at Starkade.com. So we will be dropping like an initial inventory that comes in, but then that becomes part of our system and our world. So there will be new inventory coming in, like new stock coming into the warehouse several times in the future. It will be a continual thing for us. So that all builds into our engine that we're building. So it's not just like a one-off drop. We're not, recreating a one-off drop where there's FOMO and whatever. It is going to be a structured kind of ongoing thing. So yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah,
spoke like a true UX designer on it. Yes.
You know what's up.
I'll tell you what, as an art collector, that last part made me super excited. Like, I'm the other thing I was going to ask is stickers.
Oh man, yeah, that's part of the merch. We actually talk about those. Yeah, we want what we would love to do if we can make this work is like anybody who gets any piece of merch will get a Starkade sticker or Starkade stickers. Don't quote us on that. But that's one of the things we've been talking about as well, because we love giving out. Like I'm an ephemera guy. Like I love trading cards and all this. Like I got Pogs back there and everything. Like I love that kind of stuff, and I'd love to kind of recapture that Nintendo Power-esque free sticker card thing that they did back then. Hey, like get the free trading card. Yeah, hey, look at my boy here with my zines. Hey,
yeah, and they came with some cool stickers, and so I was like, oh man, I want to know if there's more. I love I'm the same way, man. I've got like a drawer full of like all my cool like swag and stuff. So that is what interests me the most. Last question I've got before we kind of tie up is, are there any other mediums that you guys are looking to cross outside of what you've already announced? Are you planning on any animation or any games beyond tabletop or anything along those lines that maybe in the future of the IP?
Dare we say comics
or comics?
All of the above, guys. Like and I know a lot of people say this within the scene or whatever, but I mean, I'm an 80s kid, man. Saturday morning cartoons. Like I would love to see some kind of an animated show of Starkade. I think the lore that we're building, the designs, everything is kind of built to be like an IP, not unlike He-Man or the Ninja Turtles or that, all that kind of stuff that I grew up with. Motion picture, hey, let's get Ben on the horn, man. Maybe he can help us out. And comic book, like honestly, I love comics, and the 6-page Starkade comic is in, I think, issue 1 of the zine that Ronan just held up. So, I would love to.
They're unopened, so I haven't gone through them, and I was not going to open them, but so I may just have to order a couple more because now if I can get that's cool.
Yeah, so you're gonna keep those like that Spider-Man #1 Todd McFarlane joint, huh?
That's right.
Yeah, man, I'm not opening
I
it.
got my my X-Force with Deadpool still bagged and all that good stuff.
Yes. Great reference.
I do use the pen. The one thing I do use out of that, because you threw in a bunch of like real cool little things, but the pen that you guys sent was awesome. It's got your signal noise name on it, and like I've been using it for work. It's here somewhere. But anyways, it's been such a pleasure to be able to catch up with you guys and you know, talk a little bit more about Starkade. And I actually jumped in and did some of the training stuff just a couple weeks ago for the first time, and I was like, they've done so much and I've missed so much. I got to catch up. And I don't know, I've got like 6 or 7 fighters, so I need to get them trained and ready for battle.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And everything that we're talking about, like we have a lot of updates coming up as well for on StarKade.com, and we're building that to be the central hub of everything Starkade. Like you can do everything except for buy NFTs through our website. That's the only thing. But everything else, we want that to be the place that people go to interact with the NFTs.
That's awesome. Well, you guys have been such an incredible pleasure to chat with and hear about all this and geek out with. So really appreciate you taking the time, especially late in the evening for you, and making me very much want to come to the pub with you at some point as well.
You could draw fighters, and then you guys can do like a little I'll bring my D20 and we're good. Somebody can draw fighters.
Exactly. Yeah.
So tell everybody where they can find you guys on social. And we know Starkade.com, Discord.
StarKade.com, discord.gg/Starkade, and on Twitter at Starkade World.
Awesome.
Perfect. And Starkade with a K.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say,
in case anybody was curious.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is wonderful, for choosing the topic that you guys chose. This is hyper interesting, and I'm so glad that you're doing it. And thank you very much for reaching out and considering us to be a part of it. Ronan.
Oh,
thanks,
absolutely.
brother.
No, thank you. I love meeting you guys. I want to circle back. There's a handful of things I would love to talk to you about offline. So more to come. Yeah. Awesome. All right, you guys have a wonderful evening, rest of your night. And man, I'm the problem with this for me is I have to go shopping a lot after. But you've pink-pilled me entirely into this world. So have a wonderful evening again. Thank you so much, you guys.
Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Good ride, guys.